Right, everybody. Welcome, everyone. It's right at the hour now, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all so I can give you a quick introduction to the system we're using here with Zoom. So here we are today for this awesome presentation with our Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and US Arizona team. And just a little bit of etiquette here using Zoom. So if everybody could make sure that your phone or your computer audio are on mute, and you can see here from these pictures here how you can join in. So if you're just now logging on and not sure quite how to join the audio, you'll see this area here where you'll be able to click to join audio, and then it will turn into a microphone. And so please keep that on mute while you're online. It's muted when it has the red line on it. We do encourage you to turn on your video. Granted, for the majority of at least the first half of this will be presentation, so it's not really necessary for you to have your video on if you'd like to keep it off for the first half. But once we get into discussion toward the end, it would be really great if people can turn on their videos so that we can see each other. It's just a much more realistic, lifelike conversation. So that's pretty basic. If you guys have questions, you can utilize the chat feature as well. And so you'll see that on the bottom of your screen next to the green share screen button. So next to that, it'll say chat. You can select that and you can choose whether you want to message everyone in the group or you can search someone's name privately. And while the group is presenting, I'm going to make sure that I'm paying attention to this chat. So you can either privately message me, and I'm Allison Owens. And we should be able to communicate just fine that way while people are presenting so that we don't have to interrupt. So again, please keep yourselves on mute for this portion. And then once we get to the participatory side of things after the presentation, we'll ask for questions and whatnot as we go. And of course, if you have a question, you can also raise your hand. You should be able to see a raise your hand option as well on the screen. Okay. So just quickly, my name is Allison Owens. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the ITEN project team coordinator. And so you are joining us today to partake in the presentation from one of our project teams. We've got 6 this year. And so just to give you kind of a quick rundown, I wanted to make sure that those of you who are new to ITEN or maybe aren't quite familiar with exactly what we do. So ITEN, the ITEN basics of who we are, essentially we work with ministries of education and higher education institutions in OAS member states to better education in the hemisphere. And so specifically with the project teams that you all are getting ready to witness, is we work with project teams with participants that are members of ministries, ministry reps, higher education institution reps, as well as teachers to come up with solutions for issues that they have in STEM education. So a big part of that right now is we're working with those people trying to create those solutions, and that's what the project teams have done. And so when does this happen? Just to give you guys a little bit of information on that. You'll see here, we're gonna have a webinar on all this information. So if you feel like you didn't write anything down fast enough or you don't wanna go back and listen to the recording, then you can attend our webinar that we're gonna have on December 10th to learn more about that and how to participate. And if I could just make sure that we have everybody muted. So here's, if you have your microphone on, go ahead and mute yourself for me, or I might have to do it for you. There we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry. All right, so try to keep yourselves muted, please, folks. It makes it a lot easier for us to keep the meeting going fluidly. Okay, so just a quick timeline for you all on when things happen with the project teams. So the ITEN project teams specifically function during this time frame that you can see here on the screen. So the activity starts essentially in applications from January through March and selection time for applications for project ideas. And then project teamwork, we put you all together in these teams and you start work somewhere around April and May, and then you'll see you work there through this time frame all the way through until now. So you've got 6 months where the teams are working on these projects, finalizing things in order to have this webinar share out. And in the middle of that, in August, we all met in Peru face-to-face so that everybody could collaborate in person, because we all know work is a lot easier to get done when you're face-to-face. And this is essentially kind of the culmination of what they were able to get done, able to accomplish in the last 6 months, essentially. So that's where we're at with the teams. And essentially, during this webinar, we want you all to participate. So during the first half while they're presenting, please pay attention, write down questions, think of questions. We want to have a great discussion afterward about the content that they're going to share out. Now, the chat also works, so please use the chat. Stay through the end, please.
No, it just you have the option of getting it on your phone. Yeah, I can't figure out my microphone.
Let me see. I've got some people I can hear on there. I'm not sure if we can mute them. There we go. All right. And at the end, if you guys have any questions specifically related to project teams, you can see this email address here, specifically aowens@oas.org. That's me. You can reach out to me. And then questions specifically about ITEN, you can essentially reach out to any of us, but you can reach out to our director, Rebecca, specifically as well. So this information will all be shared, so, and as well as the link to this specific presentation. So we would love your feedback, so please stay till the end, join the conversation, and then once it's all finished, we'll be sure to send you all an email with a quick link to a 5-minute survey. It's very simple, just a couple of questions. As well as a chance for you all to ask questions if you'd like to be contacted. We can also be sure to contact you if you have specific questions for us. So, and the recording will be shared as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and
I'm going to turn mine down.
I'm going to go ahead and
I can hear ears.
Just 1 second. Let me see if I can mute everybody. Okay. So, all right, everyone. So let me just double check our chats here. Okay. Danelle, if you guys want to go ahead and get your slides ready. So everyone, this is, I'm going to hand it over to our first team that's our team that's presenting today. This is our first of our 6 share outs through the next month. So if Danelle, you would like to go and share your screen, and I'll let you introduce the team or handle that however you like.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We're excited to be here and be a part of this great team. And as Allison said, we've been working on this project for quite a while. I'm going to hand it over to Nicole from Phoenix College and STEM Teachers Phoenix to kind of introduce our project, and she'll go over the agenda with you as well. Nicole?
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Danelle. So our team is the Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago and USA team, and we focused on early childhood STEM education, primarily with 4- and 5-year-olds, and we wanted to develop high-quality professional development and coaching. So we're going to go through a project overview, seed grants, continued collaboration, and then we'll have hopefully time for some discussion. So the problem statement, and basically what we had identified, is that early childhood educators could be intimidated when it comes to teaching STEM content to children ages 3 to 5 years old. And then we also saw that we have between our countries, some of those content areas would cross over primarily for 4th and 5th, or I'm sorry, 4- and 5-year-olds, and that's where we decided to kind of zone in and target those age groups. And so our goal here is really transformational. We want to empower and transform early childhood educators through this high quality professional development and establish communities of practice so that these teachers are, they're coached throughout and they are comfortable to engage learners ages 3 through 5 years old with STEM using developmentally appropriate best practices. And so some outcomes that we would like for our team is to improve the STEM identity of early childhood education teachers, the implementation of lessons and activities that they receive, and we're really we know that once they receive the resources and the manual and the lessons, that they will actually be more inclined to implement those lessons and activities and change their practices within their classroom. And then also developing a screening tool to assess STEM lessons and activities and their quality of lessons that they might already have. And then for progress, so we started with identifying the early learning standards common to each country. And with that, which there was a lot, right, to see, you know, certain countries, what they focus on. And with the United States, we didn't really have a whole lot that was content specific. So we really went through and tried to find some commonalities so that we could develop a high quality PD model that would be able to be used. And then we also used those to develop a survey tool to see with those common standards how teachers felt comfortable. Where were they comfortable? Where were they not comfortable? And then we can tailor our professional development to those areas. And I can tell you, so we focused on technology, engineering, and mathematics, but then we also broke them up into categories of biology, earth and space sciences, and physical sciences. And interestingly, with some of that data that we've collected, we started collecting in Peru at ITEN with the early childhood educators that were present, and then we will also be surveying early childhood educators now. But with what we have gathered so far, I can say teachers from Jamaica are very confident in physical sciences, and it seems that in all of the other countries that were surveyed, that would tend to be the lowest in confidence, teacher confidence. And then across the board, teaching engineering concepts seem to be the lowest as well. And then collaboration beyond beyond Peru, we have been sharing resources and ideas, continued communication, and then applied for seed grant funding. And that is where we're at now. And I think I'm passing it off.
Dr. Benjamin, would you like to take over here?
All right, sure. Okay. We, as Nicole mentioned, we developed a survey instrument. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay. Good afternoon from Kingston, Jamaica, where it's a little rainy now. All right. But we developed a survey instrument, a collaborative effort. And we actually identified 8 schools that would be involved in the project. We're going to be a little different in terms of how we train these teachers, and that the original idea was that we would bring them all into one location and then do the training, but logistically it works out a little bit better if we go to them and provide them with relevant support at their location. So though there are probably going to be 8 schools, we're going to be working with about, we're going to ask 2 of the schools to join us at, we're going to be going to 6 schools, but we're going to ask 2 of the 8 to join us at one of those schools that's closest to them. If you understand what I'm saying. So what we've done so far, however, is that we've done a survey, and only 1 school so far has returned the data, and it turns out that technology and engineering is an issue, and math is less so in relation to STEM. From the 8 schools that we are working with, as I said, just 1 school so far has brought back any data. And with respect to that particular school, earth science, earth and space science are issues. They're not so comfortable with those areas. Biology is the strongest area, really. So earth and space science, biology, and physical science, they seem to be comfortable with biology being the strongest area. However, in relation to, physical science is where they have the greatest area of deficiency, So earth science, biology, where earth science and biology are strong, but biology is the strongest, whereas physical science is the weakest area so far. Next slide. In relation to the seed grant proposal, we're delighted to indicate that our proposal was accepted, and we will be implementing, testing, and evaluating a model of professional development that will strengthen our institutions as it works to support STEM early education, early childhood teaching in Jamaica. I will say that they're really, well, let me put it this way. What we're doing is very timely and relevant, and will make a huge difference in relation to the direction of STEM as it relates to early childhood education in Jamaica. We are intending for the project to impact 40 teachers, as I mentioned to you, that it will be about 68 schools. It really is going to boil down to workshops at 6 of the schools. We have contacted 8 schools. However, the 2 of the schools, their teacher population is relatively small. So we're going to ask them to just join a couple of schools that are closest to them. So we're going to have 6 workshop events. That's the plan so far. In conversations with my colleagues, they're thinking that maybe we could reduce it rather than going to all 6 schools. We could go to 3 and allow the teachers that are closest to choose 3 schools as our centers, and then have schools that are closer to those centers to join us. But so far, we intend to go to 6 schools. The implementation will be of a one-day workshop, morning and afternoon. In the conversation with ITEN colleagues so far, we have not determined how we're going to do that just yet. So we're thinking, well, I mentioned that maybe the difficult concepts should be handled first and then the more familiar ones later. But we're going to decide how we're going to flow that day. We will decide subsequently later on how we're going to make the day work out. But it's going to be a one-day workshop. And we're going to also provide through the Sea Grant. In Jamaica, we're saying we're going to provide some little over $300 worth of supplies to each of the 6 schools. So all 8 schools won't actually get supplies. We're going to provide the 6 of the 8 schools. And perhaps what could happen with relation to the other 2 schools is that if they need support, when they need support for materials, they could share them. Originally, the idea was that we would have each teacher getting supplies, but there's a high turnover sometimes in our schools, and so we don't want it to be a situation where a teacher is trained, the supplies are given to them, and they may take the supplies with them when they go. So we prefer for the materials to remain at the schools. Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry. The timeline. All right, great. I forgot this one we're planning as well, so I'm sticking to my script. Yes, so we will develop the workshops between now and the end of December, end of the year, and we're going to do our training in January. It would be great for us to have given you a more specific date, but we wanted to we're working to find out from all 8 schools what specific date they'll be off. We prefer to do it when they're off from school, and then just to coordinate to see which part of January will be best for them. It's most likely going to be in the first week, first or second week of January. But we are still in the early phases of finding out from all these schools which days will be suitable for them. Subsequent to that, the teachers, which are going to be about 40 teachers still in total, will get individual follow-up coaching. One visit to each teacher to collect data as well as to assist the teacher in the continuous implementation of the strategies that they would have been exposed to at the workshop. And we will complete the project by putting together a document, a written report, to be submitted by the 31st of May, 2020, God willing. So far in relation to the progress, the proposal has been accepted by ITEN, as I alluded to earlier. The MICO, we have 2 institutions at the MICO University College. There's the MICO University itself, which is a quasi-government entity, and there is the MICO Foundation, which is an independent aspect of the university college, with its foundation being located essentially in England. We have there's a secretary and a few members of the foundation in Jamaica, but it's actually a foundation that is governed by the membership in England. So it's two independent entities. There's the MICO University College and there's the MICO Foundation. The MOU is on a review currently by our foundation because they will be the ones managing the seed grant funding. So the schools, as I mentioned to you, have been identified, and we've started to collect some data to get a sense as to what would be the most challenging aspects of the early childhood or / STEM that they would need us to make sure we have in the training event. So that's where we are so far. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Benjamin. It sounds like, again, you're doing some awesome work, and it's nice to see the modifications you've had to make just based on differences in structures of everybody's system.
You're welcome, Danelle. Thank you too. We couldn't have done it without you. Cheers.
Yeah, fantastic. Tricia, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Fantastic. And maybe you would like to tell folks who you are first and then get started.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trisha Jones, and I am a curriculum coordinator. Acting from the Ministry of Education, I am part of a wonderful project team in Trinidad and Tobago that engaged 3 divisions, the Curriculum Plan and Development Division of the Ministry of Education, the Teacher Development Division, as well as the ETC Division. So 3 divisions coming together to work on this project. What we have done as a team is first to sit down and organize how we would implement the project. What we did was divided the project into 2 phases. Phase 1 is currently ongoing. Phase 1 is currently ongoing, and so far, what we would have done is work on developing training manual that could be used throughout the system. Because what we wanted to do is to ensure that whatever information is shared with the teachers at the ECC level is relatively the same, and everybody basically follows a particular guideline in terms of how the training should be implemented. So what we did, what we planned for, what we were able to implement was a 1-day workshop for teacher administrators at the ECC level. That group, we targeted about 43 teachers in that group. And what we did was actually implement the training plan that was developed by the project team. And the project team also included the 2 teachers, Shafina and Stacy, that attended the training in Peru. Excuse me. After that training manual was developed and we implemented the workshop, in organizing the workshop, one of the first things we did was actually expose the teachers to a STEM environment. And we paid particular attention to to activity engagement and how it should be implemented. We also looked at creating a STEM environment at the ECC level. By the way, the workshop literally took place in an ECC center. We also spent time focusing on developing and exposing teachers to the 21st century skills, because we think that it was critical that when we say 21st century skills and when we say problem solving or collaboration, that everyone understand exactly what that is about. So apart from these 1-day interaction we had with the teachers, what we also did was actually set up an online platform for further collaboration by the teachers. And we also exposed them to a course called 21st Century Learning Design, which is found on the Educator Microsoft platform. It's a free course and really provides teachers with the opportunity to engage in probably about 5 or 6 21st century skills and really give them the tools to evaluate any activity that they plan to implement in the school. So that online course has started. What we also did too was, in terms of billing capacity, actually use one of the teachers, and that those teachers will be rotated over a period of time. Like every 2 weeks, a teacher will have an opportunity to moderate the session with the other teachers. So they will go through the course like that. So they will be with a particular 21st century skill, and a teacher will moderate that activity and ask questions and all of that. Okay, so that particular activity is currently ongoing. After that, one day with the teacher administrators, we already planned, and that planning is way ahead in terms of training the other ECC teachers. Now it's estimated that we're going to be interacting with over 500 ECC teachers. How we will be able to do that? What we did was actually use the teacher administrators that were trained first, and we're going to actually have them and provide the support to them, and that support will be provided by the project team to actually implement the training that has been outlined in terms of the training manual that will be provided. And let me pause for 1 minute to say that in the initial development of the training manual, after the first one-day workshop, we updated that manual based on feedback from the teachers and their experiences and what we observed in the session. And now that manual is even better and ready for the teacher administrators to use with the teachers. So what we have coming up is, again, the teacher administrators, they would be divided up into groups, and they would also be training groups of teachers in Trinidad, well, mostly in Trinidad thus far. So this week, the teacher administration will have will have an opportunity to plan. And by next week, we will be implementing that one-day training session for ECC teachers. And afterwards, they will also be introduced to the same 21st Century Learning Design online course. In phase 2, we're looking at adding to the current training manual, adding another module to that particular document, and running another round of one-day workshop, both for the teacher administrator and for the ECC teacher. After which we are hoping to implement something that we would call a showcase, where the teachers again will have an opportunity in one particular space to showcase what they would have experienced, what they would have done in their schools, and it will also provide another opportunity to share information and sharing of ideas. Can you change the slide now?
Yeah, give me just 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can get rid of those green lines by unsharing this and sharing it again. I don't know where those came from.
Sure.
Okay. And I think that worked. Okay. There's your next slide.
Right, great. Yes, thank you so much. So now what we're looking at is the project overview, and you will see based on how we organize the phases, the timeline, are we looking at the timeline, sorry. And you would see based on the phases how we organize the time to when certain things are to occur. And you would recognize or understand that in terms of what we would have done so far, so October we would have initiated the planning. In October we had the first one-day workshop for the teacher administrators. In November we started the online course. Also in terms of November we did a review of the training manual that was initially developed. The one-day workshop for the ECC teachers will take place, as I said, next week, so that's in November, and after which they will also be introduced to the online course. And what we're going to also do is get teachers themselves to actually facilitate the implementation of that course. So phase 2, we're looking to start phase 2 in January, and workshops will be initiated in February of 2020 and March of 2020. And we will culminate everything in terms of the showcase in May of 2020. Next slide, please. So progress, as indicated in the slide, we would have worked on developing this training manual that could be used as a reference. It's not that people have to stick to it totally, but it could be used. It will be used as a reference, a guide, teacher administrators in terms of how they would implement the training for the ECC teachers. At the side of the slide, you would see the front cover of that manual in terms of the design, and you would recognize that the focus is tree medication. Where we, as a country, this particular project also falls into a much larger project in terms of the Ministry of Education and the implementation of STEM across the systems on the ECC, primary and secondary schools. And we wanted to make sure that we emphasize the arts, because of this particular country, we have a natural affinity to the arts in terms of how we integrate, how we use the arts, I should say. And we also wanted to emphasize research both at the level of the
Trisha, I think you got muted.
informed decisions. Hello?
Yeah, there we go. That's good. We can hear you now. Oh, muted again.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, great. So that they are able to use the data to make informed decisions, and also for us very at a basic level, especially the ECC level, to start to get our students to start developing research skills. Okay, and I think that's it for Trinidad.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
Thanks so much.
it sounds fantastic, and it's nice that you've already gotten some of that work done already. So you're ahead of us and Jamaica as well. Our time.
Just one more thing can I add in terms of the seed grant? As a country, we were also awarded the seed grant, and the funding from that will help to strengthen what we're trying to accomplish in terms of providing.
Oops.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. We missed just the last part of that. So it'll help you strengthen stuff that you're providing in terms of what?
Additional resources, physical resources that we're going to be distributing to the schools so that they can actually do the activities that, the STEM-based activities that we encourage, or stream-based activities we encourage them to do.
Perfect. And do you think that you'll probably adopt the model from Jamaica where that's more school-based as opposed to here where we do for each individual teacher?
Yes. Actually, how we implement the training, we try as far as possible to do the training at the school, in the school environment itself. So even the teacher educators and the teachers themselves will be using the school as the base of their training. So we talk a lot about creating that environment, and we want to actually demonstrate through the training how that could be done at the ECC centers.
Fantastic. Excellent. It sounds great.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha, and the rest of the team in Trinidad and Tobago. Awesome. Awesome work. My name's Danelle Hogan. I am director of the STEMazing project at the Pima County School Superintendent's Office in Tucson, Arizona. And we're happy to be working with some of our colleagues from up in Phoenix, Amanda Whitehurst and Nicole Spencer from STEM Teachers Phoenix, and then also our ITEN teacher fellows, Carmen Barnes and Michelle Hodges, and a few other people that are on our team that know that we thank them as well. For us here in Arizona, our plan with the seed grant that we received is to have 2 cohorts of early childhood educators, 20 teachers here in Tucson and 20 in Phoenix. They'll get 2 full days of peer-to-peer professional development. So those workshops will be co-facilitated by our teacher leaders, Carmen Barnes and Michelle Hodges. And designed by the team here, but really informed by that survey tool that we've all been referencing in terms of where to start, and definitely taking into account some psychology that Dr. Benjamin pointed out in terms of maybe challenging folks first thing in the morning at those workshops to tackle something that's a little bit more challenging, and then letting them kind of rest in some of their comfort areas, but still push their practice in the afternoon with some of the areas that they're more comfortable with. Also essential to our plan is follow-up coaching. So after each workshop, every one of the participants will get a coaching session related to the implementation of something that they've learned in those workshops. And whenever possible, those coaching sessions will be provided by practicing early childhood educators so that they're getting feedback and advice from somebody who has either been in an early childhood classroom for a significant period of time or is currently in one. That we feel that coaching will be more valuable and significant if that's provided by an early childhood educator for obvious reasons. In terms of our timeline, we plan to start recruiting teachers to the 2 different cohorts on November 12th, and they'll agree that they will come to both workshops in their respective areas, either in Tucson or Phoenix. And those workshops, workshop 1 will be in January. And we have to have these workshops on Saturdays because our early childhood educators would have a very difficult time getting out of their learning environments during the week. In some cases, it would be impossible for them. So all of our workshops will occur on Saturdays. And then after that first workshop in January, they'll get a coaching session between then and the next workshops, which will happen in March. And then not shown on this slide, missing is then a second coaching session that'll happen after workshop 2 and before, hopefully before the end of April, but certainly by the end of May of 2020. In terms of progress, we've been working quite a lot with United Way of Tucson and Southern Arizona and other teacher leaders that we have on a community of practice. here that's in its second year. Those teachers meet once a month and are also learning STEM lessons and activities to bring into the classroom. And from that work, we've started to draft a new format for ECE STEM lessons. We don't feel like the 5E model for lessons is really appropriate, developmentally appropriate for early learning STEM lessons, and also doesn't really capture the nature of the play-based learning that we want children doing in those classrooms, in those spaces. So we're working on a format for that and have started to, we've drafted, I think, 5 or so activities into that new format, and are currently getting feedback from our partners on this project, and also the ones that we work with here and early childhood educators that are utilizing them already. We've secured dates and locations, so we have those done in terms of the workshops that we'll be hosting here in Tucson and also in Phoenix. In terms of continued work, as mentioned, we want to wait for some of that survey data before we decide on the focus topics. And then as a group, we'll collaboratively design the schedule and agenda for those full day workshops, and then also decide on the equipment and supplies that we'll give to each of the educators that come. Those equipment and supplies will be given to each individual teacher. For us, that is the best way for us to provide them with what they'll need, as they'll be the ones individually implementing them, and we might not get all the teachers from a single school or institution, so it makes the most sense to give the equipment and supplies to the educator who's been trained to use them. Also, we just had some folks here yesterday from around the state, and I was able to talk with another county superintendent's office from Santa Cruz County south of us, and they're very interested in potentially hosting a 3rd cohort of 20 teachers or more in their county, perhaps starting in February. So we'll be following up with them and see if they can secure the funding, and if we can figure out how to add them into this this effort, which would be really great. And we've done work with them in the past, so I expect that that will likely work out. So that was our seed grant and kind of the progress that we've made on that so far. In terms of the rest of the project team, we're very excited to be hosting everybody here on a cooperation exchange in March. And when folks come here, obviously we'll continue our collaboration and share lessons learned on the work that all of us have done to date, and then future and continued work. We'll also have the educators that are visiting here. And I should mention that beyond Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago, we'll also have some educators here from Costa Rica that were a part of the ITEN program too. We'll have the visiting educators visit early learning centers that we have here in Southern Arizona. They'll get to experience the 2nd largest science fair in the world. I just confirmed that stat. So Southern Arizona Research, Science, and Engineering Foundation hosts one of the largest science fairs in the world. And so what's unique about the science fair here is the size of it, but also the fact that it does include now, this is the 2nd year that they've been including pre-K projects. That's very uncommon to have even early childhood, early elementary projects in these science fairs. And so the fact that ours includes preschool classrooms where students are doing research projects is notable, and will be something that will show off to our visitors. Also, if you'll note the time in March when everybody's coming on the exchange, that coincides with the 2nd workshop, full day workshop that we're having here in Tucson. So everybody who's visiting will get to actually participate in and experience that 2nd full day workshop that we're doing here in Tucson. And then beyond that, just by chance, that timeline also happens to match up with some really huge informal science education events here. So part of the Science and Engineering Fair is a Future Innovators Night, where thousands of people come to the Tucson Convention Center to experience hands-on STEM activities from 50 or 60 different exhibitors from around our community. And then the Tucson Festival of Books, which is one of the largest in the country, and one of the only ones that has a complete section devoted to science literacy called Science City, will be happening that weekend as well. So on Sunday, we'll have everybody who's visiting have a chance to go out and experience the very large Tucson Festival of Books and Science City. And generally, I try to get one of the authors to do a special event for our teachers. I haven't seen the author list yet, so I haven't started to figure out who that will be in terms of the author that we'll try to highlight this year, but that is definitely in the works as well. And that, my friends, is really where we're at with this project. I just want to thank everybody who's been involved with this, and especially our partners in Phoenix who let us come in and join them and share our expertise in this area. What questions do you have? I'm channeling Mary Boulay, who is actually on this webinar, who poses this question frequently.
So anyone who does have a question, please feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and just chime in. And please direct your question to the person you'd like to ask it to, or if you have a preference.
If nobody has one right now, I have a question for Trinidad and Tobago. Trisha, the showcase that you're going to do, that you're planning, do you imagine that would be virtual or in person? I'm just wondering what you think the format would be for that.
It will not be virtual. What we're planning to do is bring the teachers to a particular space, and what we'll be asking them to do is to showcase what they would have done in their school. The reason for the showcase is to really highlight STEM education at the EPC level, to also, highlight to other stakeholders as well, because we're hoping that parents and other representatives from the Ministry of Education and persons from the general public to participate. But we also want to provide an opportunity for teachers to interact with each other on a face-to-face basis, just like they from all over the country. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's great. We do a showcase at the end of our STEMazing Community of Practice to have folks show off what they've done beyond what they've learned in that particular professional development, which is over 9 months. And so, yeah, I was curious. I can share some pictures of the boards that some of those teachers put together, so you can see how.
That would be great.
And I'm getting a question about how we're selecting teachers to participate in the cohorts here in Tucson and also in Phoenix. You know, it's a very small group of teachers that we're going to be able to provide the opportunity to. So we'll open that up on, as I said, on November 12th. And if folks are interested that are on here and being involved in that, they can certainly reach out and email me at the STEMazing Project, and I'll provide my email address in the chat. But in a lot of cases, it's going to be folks that we've that have participated in workshops in the past with us. So through our network of connections with teachers already, and also through the United Way communities of practice that engage a lot of early childhood educators in Southern Arizona.
And for Phoenix, I know that Phoenix College has been working with several school districts that they partner with as well. So we're going to be sending out the information to them along with other people from STEM Teachers Phoenix's network and that sort of thing. So our initial thought is that it's not going to be hard to fill those 20 spots because people are very hungry for that sort of professional development.
And who is this speaking?
Sorry, this is Amanda Whitehurst with STEM Teachers Phoenix.
Awesome, thanks, Amanda.
Other questions? We did a really good job explaining what we're doing, I think.
Well, it would be really helpful if people saw any gaps or had questions of things that they think that maybe we haven't covered just because, you know, maybe we've talked about it, but we weren't clear, or maybe we haven't thought about it. So you could point out something that we haven't thought of before. So.
I'm okay.
I think you're right, Danelle. I think you did a great job.
As did everyone else. No,
and
I just
Dr. Benjamin and yeah, everyone.
It's interesting to just note the different structures just based on the way the systems are set up differently as to how we're implementing the different projects, but with a lot of really, really common structure. And it's been really great to just listen to how other people are organizing their workshops, and also kind of the challenges that people face to provide professional development to educators. Some of those are similar and some of them are different. I mean, we're also geographically very spread out. And so for us, we have to provide workshops here in Tucson, in Phoenix, and then hopefully in Santa Cruz County as well, in Nogales. So that's definitely been interesting. And then just great to collaborate with folks that are bringing different perspectives and ideas to the table, and challenging some of the ideas that we have in terms of structure of the workshops and so on. So thanks to everyone.
Awesome. We do have another minute. If anybody has any questions, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, this is Trisha. Just I would like to point out in terms of the work that the teachers did in Peru. The two teachers who represented Trinidad and Jamaica, and that is Shakina and Casey. I think that when they came back to Trinidad and Tobago, they really came back with the knowledge and the drive to help change the system. They have been very instrumental in terms of, especially in the workshop, convincing teacher administrators of the value of what they're trying to accomplish. And I want to thank them publicly well this forum for hard work they would have done. They really came back with a drive to share what they would have experienced and to encourage the teachers in Trinidad and Tobago that even though we have been practicing some level of democratic education, we still need to go further and dig deeper in terms of the experiences we have to offer the students. So I want to thank them for that.
Yeah, it's been great to see how much the teacher leaders have stayed in touch too and keep sharing resources. And we've seen that with ours as well, which is great.
Great. If anyone else has any other
And
questions.
also we're excited to get all of the teacher fellows back together to share even more, because we know when they're here in Tucson that they'll be able to, it'll be nonstop professional development anytime they're together. So that will be good.
Very good point. Team, do you guys have anything else that you want to share specifically, aside from the presentation? Anything you want to share with the community that's here with us today before we close out?
I think we're good.
Okay. We could go on and on with questions for a while, but we've only got about 5 minutes left. I only need about a minute to really close out. Just going to mute that person. I just wanted, out of curiosity, to know, for those of you, maybe if those of you who are still listening, who are in other countries outside of the team presenting, so outside of Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica and the U.S., if any of you from other countries, do you all have any STEM-specific work that you're doing in ECE that you'd like to share? Please feel free to just unmute yourself and speak up. If so, I'll give you a moment. Okay. If anybody is just still struggling to find the unmute button, please interrupt me if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to share my screen one more time with you all to close us out here now that we're to the end of our hour. First off, thank you, team Trinidad, Tobago, US, Arizona, and Jamaica. Thank you guys so much. For those of you who don't know how much work this is, on top of your everyday job, these people of this team have put a lot of effort into this project for the last 6 months, working together, mostly virtually, and then only one time in person, respectively, in Peru. So they've really come a long way, and it's really amazing to see how we're able to reach across borders and share in this network. So we're really, really grateful for you all, in addition to all the other project teams that have been also doing the hard work. So those of you who are on here who are really not familiar with this at all, please reach out to us. If you have questions specific to project teams, email me, Allison Owens here. The email is shown here at the top of the screen, aowens@oes.org. Otherwise, you can also email Rebecca Vieira at rvieira@oes.org. But again, we would love your feedback. So you should have already received an email into your inbox that you used, the email address that you used to register for the Zoom with. And please take a moment, give us some feedback. It's short and sweet. And if you'd like to receive contact directly from us, that's a place where you can give us your contact information and we can do that. As well as that recording will be shared out with you all. So, and then just one last little note for everybody. We do have 5 other project teams that will be presenting, and you can see here, this is also part of the email that we just sent. These will be the upcoming webinars and events that we have going on. So some of them are in Spanish, so just keep an eye on that. If they're in Spanish here, that means they're going to be delivered in Spanish in the webinar. So be prepared for that. And you will register the same for those as you did for this one today. And then lastly, in orangish yellow down here, you guys can see where it says December 10th. That's the date that we'll be doing our webinar for talking about project teams and how you can be a part of it. So again, thank you all so much for coming. It was really great to have so many. I think we had about 40 people on, so that was pretty cool. So thank you, everyone. And if anybody has any last minute questions, I'll hang around for a minute if you guys have questions. And team, if you'd like to, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we'll close out shortly after everyone logs off. So thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Santana.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Carol.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Pretty
you,
Gay.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mary.
Bye.
Bye, Nicole.
Bye-bye, Danelle and Allison.
Bye, Shafina.
Nice seeing
Shafina.
you guys.
Likewise. Well, I don't see you, but I hear you. Nice hearing
Good to
you.
hear you.